Tim Legler, ESPN NBA analyst and analyst for SportsCenter throughout the NBA Finals, and Legs joins us on the program. Legs, thanks for joining us. Let me start with this. Will there or should there be an asterisk by this NBA Finals?
Absolutely not. No. And I think, Dan, if we're really going to go back and take a look at, the last 30 NBA champions, there's a lot more things in there that you would find if you're going to start digging into who's healthy, who's hurt, what teams were missing at certain times. I get it in a moment. It's going to be talked about because these aren't just two injuries. These are two catastrophic injuries. I mean, these are two of the big three when you talk about NBA injuries, right? The ACL, the Achilles, and I guess the patella tendon would be the third one. So these are catastrophic. I get it. These are the two names that they are. So in a moment, we're going to focus on it. Certainly in the Bay Area, they're going to be talking about this for a long time. But it goes away, and you don't talk about it anymore. And I think ultimately, a couple of years from now, or when you reflect back on this title 20 years from now, the visualization you're going to have is the dominance of Kawhi Leonard. That's all you're going to remember when you go back to this team and winning this title, because this was one of the most dominant and consistent and machine-like playoff performances in NBA history. And, I am as amazed at watching this guy play every night and how much he has improved his game over the course of his career.
What does it say about the NBA? And maybe this is an anomaly, but you didn't have anybody drafted higher than fourth overall playing in the NBA Finals, except for Kevin Durant. I think Boogie Cousins was fifth overall, but everybody else is either in the lottery later on first or second round or not even drafted at all.
I think that's a good thing, right? I mean, it shows you that, well, first of all, we've marveled about Golden State already for years. We've given them credit for that and the way they built the team. It was a homegrown thing for the most part until KD got there. I mean, they had already won a championship before he arrived. And they did it by drafting those guys, getting Draymond Green the second round. You pick up Klay Thompson, Curry, even Harrison Barnes, who was a key part of those early teams. You drafted yourself. So they did it in a homegrown way. So give them credit for identifying the talent. The same thing when you look at the Toronto Raptors. Now, a lot of these guys came in from other places, but they drafted Pascal Siakam. I mean, he's a guy that they identified early on, and you look at the growth and emergence of him. As another guy that put his stamp now is going to be an all-star caliber player going forward that they identified. They don't win a championship this year without Pascal Siakam. So I think it's a good thing overall for the NBA, and I think it's good to look at guys and give them credit for turning themselves into players that we watched during this finals, particularly a guy like Kawhi, who was a baseline slasher, a decent mid-range jump shooter, did not have three-point range, was not a good ball handler when he came into the NBA. And now this guy is controlling entire games and entire series with his handle and his physical strength and his precision on his shooting. And he became automatic at the foul line in pressure moments as well. So cannot say enough about what this guy did and how fun it was to watch him. And also think, in a lot of ways, I love the role model that he is in terms of his demeanor on the court. I think there's something good about guys that don't celebrate themselves, and they just go about their job and go about their business, and they keep that stoic demeanor. I think that's a good thing, and I think it's something that more young players should be shown and say, this is a good thing. You see how he's always in control of his emotions. He's not trying to bring attention to himself. It's all about getting the job done, and I just really admired the way he went about his work. Knowing
what we know now and don't know now, who would you say is the team to beat next season?
Goodness gracious, this is such a tough question to answer because of who we're talking about and the potential that these guys change teams. I mean, look at the possibilities and who ends up where and how dramatically different the answer to that question would be. Clearly, Golden State is not going to be in that category because you're not going to see Kevin Durant, I'm guessing, all next year. And based on what we know now about Klay Thompson, at best, you're looking at a guy coming back right before the playoffs. Do you really want to do that to a guy for open ACL reconstruction and put him through a 2-month playoff grind? There's a good chance we don't see either one of those guys next year. I was joking. Maybe they should tell Steph Curry to go away for a year. Just go to an island somewhere and rest your body and have all three of those guys come back together if you can re-sign Durant. So I don't think Golden State's in that category. It's just based on what they're going to be facing from an injury standpoint. Kawhi Leonard, I still think it's a coin toss whether he comes back or not. Everybody seems to think it's a foregone conclusion he's gone. I don't know. I think some of the things he said last night were telling. When he talked about the connection the guys had in the locker room and how no one had any egos, there was no problems, personal clashes between anybody. I don't think he was necessarily taking a shot at anybody in San Antonio. I think he was just reflecting on the health of this situation, and I think that's really important to a guy like Kawhi Leonard because it doesn't require as much verbal and vocal leadership when you've got a healthy locker room, and I think that's what he's all about. Just show up, do my job, because there's no fires to put out amongst my own team. I think that's kind of what he was saying last night, so I think that's a coin toss. But if he stays, from what we know, the Toronto Raptors would be, I think, the favorite going in because there could be such a different look for teams like New York or the Nets or the Clippers or Lakers. Where's Anthony Davis going to go? So that there's so many unanswered questions going into the season. Let's just say Kawhi Leonard stays, and the Toronto Raptors are the most surefire bet.
He's Tim Legler, ESPN NBA analyst. All right, quick hitters here. If you're Kawhi Leonard, what do you do?
Stay. If I'm Kawhi Leonard, I stay.
If you ran the Pelicans,
you got to move Anthony Davis before the trading deadline because you need that pick on draft night. I'm sorry, before the draft because you need that pick on draft night. I think the best assets you can get are probably in Boston. But if he's saying, no way am I re-signing him, and it's incumbent upon you probably moving to the Lakers, I just don't know if they want to do business with that team.
If you were Kevin Durant?
Stay. If I'm Kevin Durant, I'm staying there, but I don't think he's going to.
If not there, then where?
The Knicks. It seems like he's had the Knicks, and he and Kyrie pairing up in New York seems very likely, although I'm hearing more and more that Kyrie might be headed to Brooklyn. It's hard to know, hard to gauge these guys.
Legs, good stuff. Great stuff during the season, and, your playoff breakdown, we're wonderful on SportsCenter. So great to connect with you again, and we appreciate your time.
Thanks, Dan. Always great talking to you.
That's Tim Legler, one of the great shooters in NBA history. Legs does agree. He's very bright when it comes to breaking down plays, like plays that can, determine who wins and who loses. He was very good during the playoff run here on SportsCenter.
For more Dan Patrick Show, tune into Audience Channel 239 on DirecTV. Stream for free on BR Live or download the Dan Patrick Show app.